in this video, I want to kind of jump ahead to the end of the capstone process. I think sometimes looking at the end products can be really helpful in this initial planning stage that we are going through and working on in OTD 773. So I want to thank the students from the class of 2022 who agreed to share their work and as some examples. And I also really want to highlight how the capstone experience and capstone project, how they kind of differentiate from each other, but also can connect with each other in many ways. Certainly, this is something that will continue to develop for each person slightly differently as they develop their capstone, but we're going to go through several examples that hopefully help. So the first one here that you see is from Jesse Steiner, and Jesse worked with a rural school district. His site mentor was not an occupational therapist. It was the director of special education at the school district. And so he details here, this is part of his e-portfolio, the background of how he, came to kind of this project idea, the process that he wanted to, that he utilized, in terms of really building and advocating for the unique role of OT within the rural school district, where they do have kind of limited therapy services. And so what he worked on a lot of after, working with the school district and talking to folks, was developing teacher training and having them kind of be able to do some of that kind of initial screening, as well as implementing some occupation-based work into the teaching going on in the classroom. So he goes through this, and what I want to highlight here is he has some examples of deliverables. So this is a big thing that you'll be thinking about, and as you plan your capstone, what are your deliverables? And there's kind of different deliverables usually refer to like what you're doing for your site. So something you'll discuss with your site that meets some needs of theirs that they're really looking for, and how that relates to your project. And so you have your big P capstone project, but you have little p projects, which are often, I would consider the same as deliverables. So that's kind of the differentiation. I know the word project can mean a lot of different things. So that's kind of, we're talking about your big P capstone project, which I'll show you here. So this is what Jesse put together for his big P capstone project. This is the poster that he put together, where again, he goes through the background, the needs, like who he, stakeholders, the purpose of his work, and then the process, right? So he really breaks it down in terms of how he came to developing these resources and deliverables. So again, looking at it from kind of a scholarly perspective, a really systematic process. So I'm going to, and then he looks at how he evaluated those deliverables and a discussion of kind of the implications for OT. So this is the big P project, but clearly in Jesse's case, this is very related to the work he was directly doing in the school with the teachers. He just kind of took kind of the process of it, right, and evaluation of it, and put that into the project that he then disseminated. But if we look back at the deliverables, and here's just one example, right, he created a handwriting handbook. So I'll just scroll down here so you can see all of, so this is what he did for a lot of his experience hours, was develop this resource for teachers after, right, going through understanding the needs of the teachers and the needs for this specific school district, right? So this is this handwriting handbook, as it says up top, is for this specific school district. However, what he wanted to do was kind of zoom out a little bit as we look back to the poster here in terms of what could another OT do at a different, maybe rural school district. Could they follow the process that Jesse has laid out and really look at some of the, how did he evaluate the materials, that sort of thing, and then apply that to their own setting. So that's a good example of a obviously very interconnected project and experience deliverables. So another example is, and we'll start with, I think, the poster first. So this one is from Meridian Cole, and Meridian worked with a community-based organization in New Mexico called OT Circus, which is run by an OT. So it does have, some OT specific work that it does, and as well as being very involved in the community. So you can see here in Meridian's poster, again, she really breaks down the background, and some of the theories that she brought into her work: social emotional learning, trauma-informed care. And then, she focused her project on program development. And so she, as I'm scrolling down here, went through the program purpose, a little bit more about specific OT theory, and then the program development process. Okay. And, she doesn't focus a lot on this, but a big part of what her experience was like was supporting this sensational social summer camp. So she shares a bit about that. So, right, her project poster isn't exclusively about the summer camp. It's much more about kind of the program process that she utilized to really plan, right, the summer camp. And then she looks at some outcomes, and again, a discussion about future opportunities, implications for OT, that sort of thing. So if we go to a deliverable, right, so in addition to the really hands-on work that she did with this summer camp, I'm going to share, let's see here. So this is a manual that Meridian developed specifically for OT Circus about trauma-informed care, and how, I'll go back to the first page here. Really incorporating trauma-informed care in social emotional learning. So again, this is a deliverable that she was able to provide to her site for them to continue to use. So you can kind of see how, again, the project and the experience are very intertwined, and how students like Meridian were able to, again, really apply a theoretical and systematic scholarly kind of approach to developing the program and making sure it's really rooted in occupation-based theory and OT, as well as bringing in other theories and walking folks through the whole process. So another great example of a deliverable. Okay, so I'm going to share another one. We'll go back. So this is Ryan Oslin's poster, and she worked with a Portland-based private practice called Thrive Outside, looking at nature-based occupational therapy. Again, she really focused a lot on program development as well as educational material development, which is a really common, I think, thing that people focus on for capstones. So similar to some of the other posters we've seen, she walks through the background and purpose for the development. She, really lays out the objectives and then looks through program development and implementation, the education piece, outcomes, and again, really connecting it to, what are the implications for OT more broadly, for maybe other therapists who are interested in developing a similar program, that sort of thing. So if we look at what else Ryan did beyond kind of what she talks about in her poster, because again, she really focuses on this kind of program development piece, but some more details in terms of deliverables that went into it. She also created this website that kind of lists everything that she did. So she wrote newsletter articles. She wrote some more scholarly articles that the practice can share with, interested stakeholders. She did social media infographics, and also has some other resources here as well. So you can see, right, there's a lot of different things that go into. So these small P, right, projects and deliverables that go into the larger kind of scholarly endeavor, right? And for the last one, we're going to look at a slightly different example of where there's a little bit more separation between the capstone project and the capstone experience. So again, this is a good example of another approach, right? The ones we've looked at were, very kind of program development oriented. So things are very connected with the on-site work that people are doing. And working directly with, organizations and clients and that sort of thing. This one's a little bit different. So let me share. So this one is from Sarah Wells. And so for Sarah's project, she did a small qualitative research study. And so we got IRB approval before she began her capstone semester. Her site was very invested in this research as well. So they were really supportive, and she was so she was able to spend a good chunk of her time working with both her site mentor and her faculty advisor, who is me, on this research study. So the poster really walks through the research study. What was her research question, kind of the background, what were the methods, the results, and then, the kind of discussion of that, the implications and future directions. So this is a little less connected to our site, which was Go Baby Go Oregon, because Go Baby Go assisted with recruitment, but because it's an IRB research study, it's not specific to the organization. This was really focused on people's experiences, parents in this case, so their experiences. So I'll show you now some other things. So this is not the only thing that Sarah did with Go Baby Go. She did some stuff that was much more site specific. So for example, she created a ride-on toy car user's manual that is on the Go Baby Go website. So I'll just scroll down so you can see, again, a lot of her work went into this, as well as some other kind of manuals and user guides and that sort of thing. So she created a lot of resources for Go Baby Go, in addition to the more project scholarly piece where she did this small qualitative study. So again, she has the deliverables, again, that are very site specific that the site can use, after she's gone, and then in, certainly very related, right? Because she was looking at parents' perceptions of pediatric therapists, which is part of kind of Go Baby Go's work, but in a more separate kind of context. So I hope these examples have been helpful. These are, again, just a few of the kind of many ways that folks can implement their capstones, thinking about deliverables for their sites, as well as how to frame their projects and their scholarship piece. So this is certainly, again, something that will continue to develop, but looking at end products can sometimes be really helpful in helping you plan out what the steps you need to take to get to this point will be. So thank you.